What happens when the most powerful beings in the galaxy make the worst mistake of their lives? The council chamber stretched across 3 miles of polished crystal. Representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in floating seats, their alien forms casting strange shadows. At the center stood Ambassador Sarah Chen, the only human in a sea of creatures that ruled the galaxy. Earth's application for council membership is denied, announced Overlord Vexstar, his 6 arms gesturing dismissively. His voice echoed like grinding metal. Sarah's heart sank. May I ask why? The chamber filled with alien laughter. High-pitched chirps, deep rumbles, and sounds no human throat could make. Your species is too young, hissed Counselor Zithra, her snake-like body coiling. Too primitive. You've barely left your own solar system. We've colonized Mars. And pathetic, interrupted General Korth, his massive frame blocking out the artificial suns above. My people were building star destroyers when yours were still in caves. Sarah felt her face burn with shame. 3 years of negotiations. 3 years of hope. All for nothing. Furthermore, Vexstar continued, your military is laughably weak. Your technology is centuries behind. You offer nothing we need. The worst part wasn't the rejection. It was what came next. By council law. Rejected species are forbidden from contact with member worlds for 100 standard years, Zithra announced. Consider this your exile. Sarah's blood went cold. That's a death sentence. We need trade routes, medical supplies. Energy crystals should have thought of that before wasting our time, Korth growled, as Sarah was escorted from the chamber. She heard Vexstar's final words. Perhaps in a century, if your species survives. You might be worthy of cleaning our ships. The alien laughter followed her all the way to her shuttle. What? Sarah didn't know was that she had just witnessed the beginning of the galaxy's greatest mistake, .. The AWA KNA 3 months after the exile, ma'am. You need to see this, said Captain Rodriguez. Bursting into Admiral Hayes' office on Luna Station, Admiral Diana Hayes looked up from her reports. The stress of the past months showed in her gray hair and tired eyes. What now, Captain? It's the mining operation on Ceres. They found something. Hayes frowned. More ice deposits? No, ma'am. Something else. Something that shouldn't exist. 20 minutes later, Hayes floated in zero gravity inside a hastily constructed tunnel on the dwarf planet. Her helmet lights revealed carved walls covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. How deep does this go? She asked. We've mapped 12 levels so far, replied Dr. Sarah Chen. The same. Sarah, who had been humiliated before the council. She'd thrown herself into research after returning to Earth. But ma'am, that's not the amazing part. They descended deeper. The walls began to glow with a soft blue light. The symbols are instructions, Chen explained. Written in a language that somehow translates itself in your mind when you look at it. Instructions for what? Chun's voice was barely a whisper. How to build things, weapons, ships, technologies that make council tech look like stone tools. They entered a vast chamber. In the center sat a perfect sphere, 10 feet across, humming with energy. We think it's some kind of factory, Chen continued. When we touched it, it ... activated, started producing blueprints. All we need to do is feed it raw materials. Hayes stared at the sphere. Who built this? The inscriptions mention something called the Predecessor Empire. They ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. Then they vanished. Why leave this here, on our doorstep? Chen turned to face her. Because they were watching, Admiral? The final message is clear. To those who are cast out, take what is rightfully yours. Hayes felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold of space. How long until we can start production? The first ships could be ready in 6 months. But Admiral ... Duddle quotes Chen paused. These aren't just ships. These are war machines. The blueprints show weapons that can crack planets. Hayes thought of the council's laughter. Their dismissive words. Their death sentence disguised as exile. Then we'd better get started. Little did they know. Across the galaxy, sensitive council instruments were beginning to detect something impossible. Massive energy signatures from the supposedly primitive Sol system, asterisk, the first STRK-8, months after the exile, Commander Thexvalum was bored. Patrolling the outer rim was punishment duty, and he knew it. His crime? Questioning whether the council had been too harsh on the humans. His ship. The Stellar Fang was state-of-the-art Zephyrian technology. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids. Shields that could withstand a star's corona. He was untouchable. "Sir, we're detecting an unknown vessel," his sensor officer reported, "probably smugglers. Bring us about." The ship that appeared on their screens was unlike anything in the council database. Sleek black metal that seemed to absorb light. No visible weapons. No energy signatures. "This is Commander Thexvalum of the Council Fleet," he broadcast. "Identify yourself." The response came in perfect Zephyrian. "This is Captain Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. You are trespassing inhuman." Space Thexvalum laughed so hard his translator implant glitched. "Human space. Your exile forbids you from leaving your system." "The exile is over," came the calm reply. "It's been 8 months, not a century. Surrender your vessel for impoundment." "I don't think so." Thexvalum nodded to his weapons officer. Fire warning shots. The plasma bolts lanced out and struck nothing. The human ship had moved faster than his sensors could track. "Impossible," breathed his navigator. "No ship moves that fast." The human vessel reappeared directly above them. Thexvalum felt his blood freeze as he realized his mistake. "You fired first," Captain Martinez said. "That makes this self-defense." The Stellar Fang exploded before Thexvalum could even scream, 3 systems away. Admiral Hayes watched the engagement on her command screen. Around her, a fleet of 50 ships waited in formation. Ships built from predecessor technology? Ships that made council vessels look like toys. "Well," she asked. "One shot, clean kill," reported her tactical officer. "The council ship never had a chance." Hayes nodded grimly. For months, they'd been building, learning, growing stronger. The predecessor sphere had given them everything faster than light travel that didn't rely on council jump gates. Weapons that could punch through any known shielding. Manufacturing systems that could build a dreadnought in days instead of years. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Phase 1 begins now." Across human space, fleets moved out. Not to distant stars, but to something much closer. Something the council had forgotten about. The jump gate network. Every species in the galaxy depended on the ancient jump gates for travel. They'd been built so long ago that no one remembered how. The council controlled them all, or so they thought. What the council didn't know was that the jump gates were predecessor technology, and the humans now had the master codes. Asterisk. The Empire strikes BACK 2 weeks after the first strike. "What do you mean offline?" Overlord Vextar's roar shook the council chamber. General Korth stood at attention, but his confidence was shaken. "Sir, 17 jump gates have gone dark in the past week. Ships entering them simply... disappear." "Mechanical failures," Counselor Zithra hissed. "The gates are ancient." "No, ma'am," Korth replied. "We sent investigation teams. The gates are intact. They've been... reprogrammed. They're routing all traffic to unknown." Coordinates Vextar's 6 arms trembled with rage. "How is that possible? No species has gate codes?" The chamber fell silent as a new voice spoke from the shadows. "Wrong." Every head turned as Ambassador Sarah Chen walked into the center of the chamber. But she wasn't alone. Behind her marched a figures in black armor that seemed to eat light. "Security," Vextar bellowed. "The chamber's defenses activated. Force fields, stun rays, gravity wells, all the technology that made the council invincible. Every system struck the humans and did nothing." "Predecessor shielding," Chen said calmly. "Your weapons can't touch us." "Impossible," breathed Zithra. The predecessors vanished millions of years ago. They left gifts for the worthy, Chen replied. Funny thing about exile, it gives you time to explore your own backyard. One of her armored companions stepped forward and removed his helmet, revealing Admiral Hayes. We've seized 37 jump gates, Hayes announced. Every ship that enters gets a choice, surrender or die. Most choose surrender. This is an act of war. Korth snarled. No, Chen said softly. This is justice. The chamber screens lit up with images from across the galaxy. Human fleets attacking Council outposts. Entire systems switching sides. Species that had been oppressed by the Council for centuries, now flying Earth's banner. You see, Chen continued. Funny thing about calling a species worthless. Other species start to wonder what makes you so special. On the screens, a massive battle played out. A Council dreadnought, 10 miles long and bristling with weapons, faced off against a single human ship, barely a tenth its size. The Council ship fired first, a planet cracker beam that could melt. Countenance. The human ship's shields absorbed it. Without a flicker, the human returned fire, punched through the dreadnought's hull like paper. The massive ship split in half, its crew dead before they knew they'd lost. How many ships do you have? Vexstar whispered. Enough, Hayes replied. The predecessor technology includes self-replicating factories. Every day, our fleet doubles in size. What do you want? Sithra asked, her arrogance finally cracking. Chen smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Full Council membership. With a permanent seat on the ruling Council? Never. Then this war continues until there's nothing left of your precious Council. Vexter's mind raced. His forces were being crushed. His allies were deserting. And the humans controlled the galaxy's transportation network. You're bluffing, he said. You can't fight the entire galaxy. The chamber fell silent as a new image appeared on the screens. A massive fleet in Earth's orbit. Not hundreds of ships, but thousands. Each one larger than the last. Each one humming with predecessor power. And at their head, a ship so large it defied comprehension. A mobile world, bristling with weapons that could crack stars. We call her the Terra Eternal, Chen said. Our flagship? Want to test her firepower? For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council knew fear, asterisk a new ORDR1, year after the exile, The coronation took place in the old Council chamber, but everything had changed. Where once 1,000 alien species had looked down on humanity, now those same species knelt, not in defeat, but in respect. Admiral Hayes. Now Empress Diana Hayes of the Terran Empire stood before the assembled delegates. The crown on her head was made from metals found in the deepest parts of space, forged in fires that burned hotter than stars. Rise, she commanded, and 1,000 beings obeyed. The transformation had been swift. Once the Council's fleets were broken, once their jump gate monopoly was ended, species after species had flocked to Earth's banner, not out of fear, but out of hope. The humans had done something the Council never had. They'd shared their technology. Worlds that had struggled under Council rule now prospered with predecessor tech. Species that had been enslaved were freed. Systems that had been stripped bare were rebuilt. Today marks the end of the old order, Hayes announced, her voice carrying to every world through the quantum communication network Earth had built. No more shall the strong prey upon the weak. No more shall progress be stifled by fear. In the audience, former Overlord Vexstar sat in chains. He'd refused to surrender, even when his home world was surrounded by human fleets. Pride, it seemed, was a universal failing. But what of mercy? He called out. What of the compassion your species claims to value? Hayes looked down at him with eyes that had seen the deaths of billions in the war he'd started. You want mercy? She asked. Your people will be relocated to a pleasant world. Given everything they need to rebuild, their children will be educated in our schools, their sick healed in our hospitals. Vexter's face twisted in confusion. Why? Because Hayes replied, We are not you. She turned back to the assembly. The Terran Empire will not rule through fear. We will lead through example. Every species, every world, every individual will have a voice in our new government. But she wasn't finished. However, her voice hardened. Let no one mistake our mercy for weakness. The fleets that broke the Council's power still patrol our borders. The weapons that ended their tyranny are still at our command. On the screens around the chamber, images of the human fleet appeared. Ships beyond counting, their hulls gleaming with the light of distant stars. Each one a monument to human determination. Each one proof that those who underestimate humanity do so at their peril. To those who would threaten the peace we have built, Hayes continued. Remember this day. Remember how the primitive species of Earth rose from exile to claim the galaxy? Remember that humanity's greatest weapon is not our ships or our guns. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembled aliens who had once mocked her. Species. It's our refusal to accept that. Something cannot be done. As the ceremony ended and delegates began filing out to spread word of the new order, Sarah Chen approached the throne. Any regrets? She asked quietly. Hayes looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's crystal walls. Somewhere out there, human colonies were spreading across worlds the Council had declared forbidden. Human scientists were unlocking secrets that had been hidden for millions of years. Human children were being born into a galaxy where their species was not just accepted, but revered. Only one, Hayes replied, that it took them exiling us to realize what we were capable of. Chen smiled. Think they've learned their lesson? Hayes stood, the weight of empire on her shoulders, but fire still burning in her eyes. If they haven't, she said, we'll teach them again. The end asterisk 50 years later. When historians wrote about the fall of the Galactic Council and the rise of the Terran Empire, they would call it the most complete reversal of fortune in galactic history. A species dismissed as primitive had become the dominant power in known space. But those who had been there, who had witnessed the transformation, knew the real truth. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy through superior firepower alone. They'd won it through something the Council had never possessed, the ability to see potential where others saw only failure. To find strength in those who had been cast aside, the exile that was meant to destroy humanity had instead unleashed it upon the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. This is what happens when you underestimate the human spirit. This is why, in the end, humanity F************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************